I'm Peter Singer.
And I'm Kasia de Lazari Radek, and today's guest has lived several lives in one. Amy Aela, born in India, raised in Australia, and now very much at home in the world of Bollywood and digital media. Amy is an actress, entrepreneur, animal activist, and a voice behind the podcast Kindness with Amy, which tells you something essential about what she stands for. She has appeared in major productions like Karma Calling, Govinda Nan Mera, and Runaway 34, and has built social media following of over 2 million people. Though I suspect she would be the first to say that's not what defines her. What strikes me about Amy is that she seems genuinely interested in asking harder questions about how we live, which makes her a perfect guest for the conversation. Amy, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
It's our pleasure. So, Amy, let's tell us right from the start. Where were you born?
So I was born in North India in Allahabad in Uttar Pradesh, and I lived there until I was approximately 6 months old, and then my parents brought me to Australia. I sort of lived my life between Australia and India, but mostly in Australia growing up.
Okay, so you were mostly in Australia growing up, but you ended up in Bollywood. Tell us how that happened.
Well, I kind of stumbled into it a couple of years ago. Actually, I went through, I would say, a little bit of an existential crisis when I was about 30. And I kind of went through this feeling of, I just felt like everything on paper made sense. You know, the job, the house, the car, all the things that we are taught in our society that we aspire towards after we finish university. You know, you should get a job, and then the dream is to then, you know, obviously get the house and you know, be in a marriage and have children, and we all follow that narrative, right? And that's what success is. That's what defines success. And for me, I just felt this gap. I just wasn't feeling happy, and I wasn't sure why. I was a vegan at the time, so I know I was living by my values, but I think I just felt somewhere something was missing. And so that's when I just sort of made some critical decisions, and I just left everything behind. I guess that's the right way to put it. And I decided to delve into a place where I just have no plan and no idea. And then that led me to India, moving to India. And I dipped my toes in the water with acting. It was the first time that I thought about doing something like that. But I fell into it. And doing that concurrently, I then also started exploring more and more stuff that I can do around veganism. And I realized that there is such an amazing opportunity to be a voice around animals, and I could create a podcast, and I could do so many amazing things with resources that can take me so far. So whilst I was also exploring the acting side with Bollywood, I was also learning so much that I could do in India and how far the resources can go to be able to create a platform to really talk about veganism and educate more people around the value of kindness and reconsidering their ethical position the same.
So tell us something about being vegan or turning vegan. So my first question would be, is it family? Were you born a vegan, or you've decided to become a vegan?
Well, that's a great question. I actually became a vegan when I was 15. I'm 37 now. And I watched a documentary called Earthlings. I'm sure you've heard of it, narrated by Joaquin Phoenix. And I think that that was a very critical thing for me because I was a big meat eater, and it's one of those things, right? We don't think about what we're eating. We're creatures of learned behavior, and when we're born into a particular society, we just kind of replicate what our parents do and the people around us do, and we don't really question it because as children, we're also not really taught critical thinking. It's not part of something you're encouraged to do, right? We don't really question our religious teachings. We don't question the things around us. But watching Earthlings was the first time that something forced me to critically think about the decisions that I'm making as a person. And it made me realize that, oh, hang on a second, my habits are not in line with my actual values. And I realized that I'm not comfortable hurting my dog. So why am I comfortable hurting another animal? Especially when I have a choice. And I think for most of us, most of us have a choice to either support violence or not support violence. So if I have an opportunity to not support violence, why would I not do that? And it really put me in that very hard spotlight on my life then and there. And I really went cold turkey, and I just decided, all right, you know what? We're just omitting dairy and eggs and meat. And I informed my family that this is it. And they were like, oh, you're 15, like it's a phase. And then 20 plus years on now, and I'm still a vegan. So I'm like, well, it's obviously not a phase. So it's stuck. But yeah, I think it was a very, very moving and very critical thing for me to see at that time. And I really encourage more people to watch and expose themselves to opposing ideas that go against their belief system, because it really helps you to redefine your way of thinking and also evolve your way of thinking. Because if we stay in an echo chamber all the time and we don't challenge ourselves or question ourselves, we're never going to grow as people. So yeah, so I think it's one of the best documentaries that's ever been made.
It's certainly a very powerful documentary. I agree. But from something you said before, it suggests that you went to Bollywood, or you tried to become an actress specifically in order to have a bigger platform to promote your views about being vegan and about the treatment of animals. Is that accurate?
There was always a wider thought process with it, that I didn't want to just randomly be an actor and randomly sort of have a bigger profile. I kind of saw it all holistically going hand in hand, because I knew that I was unhappy because I felt like I needed a greater purpose and I needed to be doing more for animals. So when I took a step back and I thought about it, I was like, well, it makes more logical sense that if I have a bigger profile and I am more people know about me, then it's just going to help me further with any animal advocacy work that I do. So I kind of saw them both working hand in hand in tandem. And indeed, that is what worked well for me. You know, my account when I had first come to India was at like 500K, and it's grown 1.5 million since I've been here. And I really do believe that traction has helped me to grow Kindness with Amy so significantly. And my connections in Bollywood have then, as such, helped me to get so many celebrities to come onto my podcast as well. And then, you know, that traction of celebrities has helped the message go so much further. So I really believe that it's been a really big part of the whole puzzle.
So you already had Kindness with Amy going before you went to India, is that right? You started when you were in Australia?
I started it once I was in India. So I started doing some advocacy work because I wasn't really sure exactly what I wanted to do with animals. I just knew that I wanted to do something. So I dipped my toes in the water. I started working for this organization called Generation Vegan, and I helped them with their social media. I helped them with, it was during COVID. So we did a lot of food drives to the homeless, and we were basically promoting plant-based food. And I was working with them across a lot of campaigns. And through that work, it made me realize how passionate I am about this. And I realized the power of digital media. So that's kind of where Kindness with Amy was born, maybe 6 months to a year after I came to India. And then I just started slowly building on the concept from there. And then over the years, I've developed it into a great ecosystem where I have a fantastic team that work with with me. I have support from various philanthropic organizations who help me to curate the messaging and the way that we want with Kindness with Amy to have the traction that it has. And now we're reaching over 40 million people every month. So for me, that's what really matters, is the fact that so many people are hearing our message, and hopefully it's changing mindsets. And I do see that, like, we get so many emails come into Kindness with Amy where people are messaging me saying that, you know, I was non-vegetarian, and after I saw some of this stuff, I've now, you know, reduced, or I've become a vegan, or I've gone from vegetarian, now I'm stopping having dairy. And we see so much of that. And to me, that's what it's all about.
Absolutely amazing. So, is veganism the only topic that you cover in your podcast, or there are other?
It's really evolved. It started as veganism, but then you kind of realize that everything is interconnected, all the isms, right? Racism, sexism, all of these things are part of a larger picture. So Kindness with Amy has turned into more of a observation around and a conversation around ethics on a more broader scale. So we now have started delving into conversations around women and around so many topics pertaining to isms. And we realize, that it is so interconnected. And when we start being more conscious, then we're more conscious about everything. We're not just conscious about like one thing, right? It's like when we talk about veganism, how we say that when people say that, oh, why do we have to care about animals? We've got human things to worry about. It's like, well, why can't our circle of compassion be open to everyone? You know, it's kind of like that. It's like our ethical considerations need to be across everything we do as human beings, not across one thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I get that all the time. People say, well, you know, we've got so many human problems, they come first. But
yeah,
often these people aren't doing very much for human problems either. And
yes,
it's sort of an
exactly.
excuse for not doing anything for animals.
To not do anything.
Yeah, and certainly I can't see how not eating animals, being vegan, how that is going to restrict your work for humans if, in fact, you are committed to it, to working for humans. Obviously, you can do that at the same time.
Yeah.
But I'd like to ask you a little bit more about becoming an actor. And did you go to an acting school to do that, or how did you just show up in Mumbai and say, I want to be an actor in your movies?
Honestly, I think I'm just naturally dramatic as a human being. I didn't go to any acting school. No, I think it's just a matter of, I mean, a lot of people who are amazing actors have gone to acting school. I think a large part of being an actor is a lot of consistency, conviction, and a dash of luck. So I do think it was just a culmination of those things. And I have grown a lot as an actor over the years and refined the craft. And I think that's also helped me so much with my advocacy, because as an actor, you have to self-reflect a lot in terms of how you present yourself, how you talk, how you appear. And that has really helped with how I effectively communicate with people in regards to things that I'm talking about. Like if I'm presenting, I do a lot of talks where I travel around India talking about effective communication or veganism or effective advocacy. And I realized that acting has really helped me to refine how I present myself and how I talk to people as well, which has been really great.
So you've said about not being happy in Australia and then moving to India. You know, as a European and so far away, I really wonder how moving between those two different cultures has shaped you. What do you think you can take from different cultures at the topic of living a good life?
It's a really interesting question. I think somewhere we become a bit complacent and we become a little detached from what really matters. And I think when we live in a very consumerist society, in a very materialistic society, that's not ultimately what makes us happy. Like our souls can't truly thrive in a consumerist mindset. And unfortunately, many, or pretty much all Western contexts do promote a consumerist living mechanism. And so when I kind of uprooted myself from that and threw myself into an environment where, you know, I literally, I quit my job. I sold my house. I sold everything, and I just came with nothing and no plan, because I didn't have a job either. So I didn't even know for the first time where I'm going to earn money from. So that was a little crazy for me, because I've always...
And very brave.
because I've always like I really had built myself up in the corporate ladder. And so to then go from living this high life to then like, oh, what are we doing? What are we doing now? You know, so it really put me in the deep end. But it's almost like, I think putting yourself in a situation of adversity really forces you to become such a better version of yourself, because that's when you become or learn how to be truly resilient. And you also learn who you are as a person, because it forces you to look at things very differently through a different lens.
I often ask that question to my students. Who are they? So how would you define yourself? Who are you, Amy?
That's an interesting question. You know, I've wondered about this question because, you know, usually when we answer this question, we always answer with, hi, I'm Amy. I'm from this place. I do this work. And, you know, I blah, blah, blah. We always define ourselves with labels pertaining to where we're from, what we do. And, you know, I like to think of it that I'm Amy. I'm passionate about animals. I'm passionate about the environment. I'm passionate about being a better version of myself. I'm passionate about doing good for the world. I'm passionate about encouraging others to care about their well-being, for the well-being of their community and the well-being of the earth. And that's me in a nutshell. Without me getting into the outer peripherals of the labels, I guess, that surround me.
Yeah, but I'm interested in the mix of cultures. As you say, you grew up in Australia. When we're speaking to you now, you're in Mumbai, and unless our producer has eliminated it all, we're hearing a bit of the traffic of Mumbai in the background. So, how much time are you spending in India now? As you know, you're moving back and forth.
So now I live in India most of the time. I do, however, work with a lot of clients around the world. So when I sort of shifted away from working in the corporate space, I still, of course, had to keep working. But I really recognized that I don't want to work for corporate organizations. I wanted to use my skill sets to work for impact organizations, NGOs specifically. My professional work, other than acting, is in the space of digital marketing, digital media, social media, etc. So I've been very blessed now that I have an opportunity where all of my clients spread across the world, clients such as Synergia International, Humane World for Animals, Effective Altruism Australia. I get to work with these amazing organizations. So because of my work with them, I do travel to my clients. So a few times a year, I tend to leave India, go to Australia, US, etc. But most of the time, I am based in India.
And do you feel that there are differing values that you have in these different places that you're living in and visiting, Australia, the US, India? I mean, we think of India as a very distinctive cultural tradition. Do you find that? Do you absorb some Indian values that are different from the values you would have if you'd spent your life in Australia, say?
If I'm being honest, I think I would have been a lot less patient if I lived in Australia or lived overseas. Like, India has taught me the extreme value of patience, and I think that's one of the biggest things because, you know, we kind of like in Australia and in other places, in other Western places around the world, you know, we live in very fast-paced sort of environments and, you know, but India's really taught me that that doesn't need to be the case. And because India's extremely chaotic, like I never know what's going to happen. Like it's absolutely chaotic. If you think you've seen chaotic, when you come here, you realize that this is chaotic. So it's taught me to not take life seriously and that you never know what can happen. And you just, you know, do your absolute best and that's all it is. Something I love about India so much is that people are so happy. Like there are so many, like the disparity, I'm sure you know, the poverty disparity in India is so extreme. Like we have extremely rich and then we have extremely poor. And the extremely poor are so happy, like they've always got a smile on their face. And I think that is just something that I find so profound because, you know, we come from environments where, you know, we're obviously associate happiness with having more wealth. But then it kind of makes you go, well, so many people here are genuinely happy with less. So can we really argue that, you know, happiness equals wealth? So that's been a really interesting observation of mine here.
And what are the reasons behind that? I mean, I'm thinking, you know, a smile can be only a sign, but deep inside, people still may not be happy on the conditions they live. So what are other reasons that you believe that they are genuinely happy?
Well, I think a large part of it would be family. And I think another thing as well is that, you know, it's like when we think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? The more that you have, it starts to create this desire for more. So it's this never-ending loop. And the more you have, the less happy you are because you're just constantly wanting the next big thing. And so I feel like, and I'm obviously talking very generally here because there are, of course, many people in poverty that are living terrible lives and do genuinely need help. But then I'm talking about a segment of people who may not be living in extreme poverty, but are living, you know, very modest lives. They may not have much, but I think it's about their mindset. And I think it's about the fact that they live with a very positive outlook and they have their values in the right place, you know, and I think that's really where that happiness would come from.
Family, I mean, family is always important, yes, and probably most important until support.
I think so, you know, because I know that when I was living in Australia, like we live more individualistic lifestyles. So we tend to be more cut off from family. Like we might see them once a week or once a month or something like that, right? But I really think we are community creatures. And when we are in the context of a community with people around us that we love, then I think that truly does bring us happiness. And I don't really believe that we're meant to be like alone or away from our family, you know. So when people live in these big messy households with like, you know, the grandma's there and this person's there, you know, that I think is really lovely and really sweet.
You are living away from your family, right? Is that your family is in Australia and you're now in India?
I fill the void with animals. So I have found a secret source to deal with that.
So do you have animals? Do you have pets?
I do. I have a dog. Her name is Cookie Monster. She's a rescue. I was a foster carer for many years in India, so I would always have different animals in my house. But then 2 years ago, I rescued this dog. She was found on a building site, abandoned, and she was in a terrible state when I found her. And she was very, very sick. She had this thing called leptospirosis, and she had to go to the vet 4 times a day, and she had 99% chance of dying. And I thought that, okay, we'll get her better, and then we'll find her a home. But then she just grew on me, and now 2 years later, she's still with me. So there we are. So yeah, I think animals bring us so much joy. Like what I love so much about them is its pure innocence. And that is just such a beautiful thing. And when I really think about it, I'm like, nothing makes me happier in life than just being around animals, because it's so genuine and just so pure.
Okay, I just want to say I'm the odd one out in this group now, I realize.
Are you?
Because I know that Kasha has one cat now, but had two cats at some point, and is
Yeah.
very attracted to them. I don't have companion animals.
What's that?
I'm not particularly keen on living with animals. We've had them at times. We had a friend who was a magnet for stray cats, and once she got to 7, and our children were quite small, she offered us a cat, and our children, of course, all said, "Oh yes, yes, please take the cat." So we did, and that was fine. I didn't really mind it, but of course there was a certain responsibility. And I have to say, I didn't want to buy meat or fish for the cat either. I tried various things that said, they were suitable for cats and cats would eat them. Our cat was just not interested. So I did go back to buying some fish and some occasionally
Yeah.
meat. I didn't particularly like that. But also it's quite a responsibility, I felt. Had other things that I wanted to do. I suppose we wanted to be able to travel, and it's hard to travel if you always got to have somebody looking after your companion animals. So it's not something that I particularly wanted to do. And I want to say this because I think you don't have to be passionate about animals. You don't have to love animals in order to think that the way we treat them is
Yeah.
completely wrong. And we're inflicting a vast amount of suffering on literally billions, hundreds of billions even, of vertebrate animals each year.
Yeah.
We raise on factory farms, for example. And it's not necessary to love them to think that's wrong. It's just necessary to think that inflicting suffering unnecessarily on a huge scale is a bad thing to do, and you don't want to be part of it.
Exactly. Exactly.
I wanted to ask about social media. We talk a lot about it now. I know that it gives you a massive platform, but of course it also comes with pressure and scrutiny. How do you protect your own well-being in that environment?
I get a lot of trolls and a lot of I've even had like death threats and so many things which happen very often because when in the Indian context, when I talk against or not even against, I mean when I'm just exposing the reality around dairy, or if I'm talking about these things, people take it as a very personal attack. And because in India, dairy is very closely linked with Hinduism. And so when I question dairy, they see me questioning Hinduism. Now, what tends to happen is then because they take it that way, that then results in a lot of backlash and a lot of such messages, death threats. And then on the other side, if I question things like, let's say the act of sacrifice, right? Now we have different forms of sacrifice in India. We have Hindus who sacrifice animals, and these days it's on the increase now. Like they're sacrificing piglets, they're sacrificing baby goats, they're sacrificing so many animals under the name of Hinduism, which to me is bizarre because this is not what the premise of Hinduism even is. And then we have on the other end, the sacrifice of goats for Eid by the Islamic community. Now, when I do bring up, let's say, for example, sacrifice, and I don't mention any religion, I'm just questioning the act of sacrificing and explaining that, the symbolism around it can be done in another way that doesn't actually require the physical sacrifice of an animal. Because when we take a step back and question why are we sacrificing, then it's about giving something up or giving something away. That doesn't mean that has to be taking the life of an animal. But people interpret that as me being anti-religion. And so that, so you can kind of see the context there. So anyway, I get hundreds per month of really, really crazy, and they're very like personal attacks. Like they'll really go at me in a really like personal way. I think you learn with time that I mean, I'm a typical marketer. Any PR is good PR. So good. Trolls, come at it. Keep going. Love it. It's just my page getting more exposure, more eyeballs. So please keep attacking me. But it also does mean I do have to have a very thick skin. And I think anyone who is an animal advocate who's in the public eye does have to deal with a lot of comments, and you just learn to not take it personally. I think that's the main thing. I've really learned not to take things personally. I used to, but now not at all.
So the cause is more important, right?
Exactly, exactly. That's the thing. I always think that if I lose it and if I fall into a heap, then my work suffers and everything I'm doing is for the animals. So I don't really have time to just, waste time. So I can't let these things affect me at all.
On the other hand, you've said that you also have so much support, yes, and so many messages saying that you do a wonderful job. So that must help as well.
Yeah, that's what keeps the perspective there, that, whilst we might have 100 negative comments, we then have 100 positive comments, and those are the ones that I care about. So.
But you do actually read the negative ones, because you mentioned before you have a team. I thought perhaps the team might filter it out and say, you don't.
I read them. I read every single message.
Wow.
Can't help myself.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So where do you see yourself going from here? Do you keep going, doing what you're doing? Do you see new avenues opening up that might be different for you?
I guess so, Peter. I guess for me, I just want to, over the next few years, dramatically increase the footprint of my advocacy and for it to become more mainstream. And that's sort of what I'm exploring now is, I feel like with animal advocacy and the topics we talk about, sometimes it can be a very fringe, like even if we are getting more eyeballs, it's still seen as a fringe movement or, not a mainstream thing. So I think for me, I really want to focus on making my page and the topics I'm talking about as mainstream as possible and as approachable as possible for people. I want to, yes, keep going on the path I'm going on and encourage as many people as possible to just reconsider their choices, their everyday choices. And yeah, just keep at it. That's the goal.
So recently we had a conversation with Bruce Friedrich, who you probably know, the director of the Good Food Institute, and
Yeah.
he recently published a book called Meat. And his take is that moral advocacy has failed to reduce meat consumption, that for the last 50 years, meat consumption, basically each year, there have been a couple of little hiccups, but
Yeah.
basically each year meat consumption has risen, not only because the world's population has risen, but in many places it's even, people are eating more meat per capita than they were before. So his take is that we need to actually change the technology, just as we solved the problem of carriage horses pulling horrible loads in the kind of thing that was written about in the 19th century novel Black Beauty, the cruelty to horses. We solved that by producing the internal combustion engine, and we have trucks doing this now. So he thinks we need to produce meat that doesn't come from animals, but still will actually be meat at the cellular level, will taste like meat, will be competitive in price with meat. What do you think of that critique? I mean, it's a critique of what I've been doing for 50 years, of course, but it's also a critique of what you're doing. How do you respond?
Yeah, I have a few thoughts about this. So number one, I do think that cell-based meat is a major solution, because I don't think tomorrow people are going, I mean, we can see people are not going to stop eating meat. And obviously we have many people that will, change their habits and are open to change. But majority of the public, that's just me. I don't know if that makes me sound very pessimist or whatever, but I just don't think they're going to change their habits. So I think the system has to change. And I think introducing cell-based meat is a wonderful solution of getting animals. I just care about getting animals out of the food system. That's really what needs to happen. And I think cell-based meat is a quicker solution to get it happening rather than thinking about changing people's consumer habits. So, I mean, I really do believe in changing consumer habits, don't get me wrong, but I just think the cell-based meat is a great broad solution that I really wish can be as soon as possible available in and make it cheaper than meat and make it, I mean, I don't even know how it's possible, but it's like if there is a way, like that would be amazing. Like imagine if in Woolworths you had like a cell-based chicken that was like cheaper than whatever you get in that packet, then I would be so interested to know how many people would pick up that cell-based. You know, it's just a matter of getting used to it because right now the animal agriculture industry has been doing so much work to make people believe that plant-based meat is bad or that plant-based or even that plants are bad for you. So they've been doing a lot of work in that respect. But it's just a matter of people getting used to something, right? So yeah, I'd be really curious to see how Aussies adopt something like a cell-based option if it was available to them and cheaper to them. Like Aussies are struggling with the rising cost of so many things. Like if we were able to offer something at a better price and we can really reiterate the benefits to them health-wise, then, I mean, I'd be really interested as to the results. But I had a question for you, Peter, because I recently had a podcast with another animal advocate, and I've sort of been someone I am an abolitionist, but I'm also partially welfarist. And I think things have changed for me over the years, I feel, especially because, you know, as you're saying, like meat eating has increased over the years. We know the facts are there on the table. But I was talking to her and I was saying that, you know, how do you feel about, let's say, for example, Go Cage Free campaign, you know, when so many organizations are getting certain hotels to pledge to go cage free, for example. And her response was that how can there's no right way to do the wrong thing. So instead of saying to these hotels to be going cage free, we should be finding solutions for the hotels to have eggs, like for example, have some subsidy system where we give them Just Egg, for example, and they can use that to replace their eggs, and they're given some massive subsidy in doing so. So we're taking eggs out of the equation completely and giving a different solution that doesn't include harming the chickens. And I was like, it's a really interesting thought because, you know, does us saying go cage free just make people feel better about doing the wrong thing anyway? And I wanted to know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, well, so I think the idea that there's a sort of choice between being abolitionist and welfarist, and that to me is, that overlooks the fact that we are here now. I don't see that abolition is going to happen in any near future. As we're saying, people are still eating meat. Maybe if we do get cheaper cellular-based meat or plant-based meat that people accept, that will make a difference. But I don't see that as happening in the near future. So the question is, what can we do for animals now? And if we can't stop people eating animals now, then we can at least make the lives of those animals less miserable than they are now. And, you know, one of the most miserable kinds of existences you can imagine is that of the battery egg-laying hen who is crammed up in a small wire cage, so small that if she were the only bird in the cage, she still couldn't stretch her wings. But she's not the only bird. There's 3, 4, maybe even 5 other birds in that cage. They're crammed together. They're there for their whole laying life, for a year, sometimes even more than a year. They're rubbing against each other. They're rubbing against the wire. By the end of that period, they've hardly got any feathers in many cases because they've been rubbed off. Also because the weaker birds can't get away from the stronger, more aggressive birds that may peck them. and in some cases, in fact, would peck them to death. But to prevent that, the producers cut off the sharp points of the beaks of the birds, which is itself a very painful procedure because the birds have all of their nerves in their beaks. It's how they relate to the outside world. So you think of all of that, and then you say, well, we could have conditions in which the birds have more room to walk around. They're able to escape from the more aggressive birds because they're inside a whole shed. Or better still, of course, they're free range and they spend many hours a day outside in the fields. And if so, then I think that's a better life. And in some cases, maybe it's even a reasonable life. I mean, it's going to be a shorter life, of course, because once their rate of laying drops off, they're going to be killed. That's an inevitable part of the commercial incentives. But still, we're preventing a massive amount of suffering. And I think that's really a good thing to do. And I think the idea of telling the hotel, well, just don't serve eggs or serve just egg. I mean, have you eaten just egg as a sort of fried egg on toast to the breakfast? It's not fantastic, I have to say. You know, you can cook with it. Certainly you can make cakes with it. But for people who actually like to have a boiled egg or a fried egg or a poached egg, there is nothing that is going to replace it.
Yeah.
So the hotel is not going to say, well, we're not serving that, because then they become a hotel for vegans, or and that's, as we've been saying, that's a niche market, and they don't want that. They have no commercial reason to do that. So I think it's really it's just imagining a world that is not going to exist anytime soon, and yet a world in which we have the option of dramatically reducing the suffering of hundreds of millions, perhaps billions of animals. So I think that's clearly the path we ought to take. And eventually maybe we will get to abolition. I mean, in that sense, I'm an abolitionist. I would like us to abolish all commercial exploitation of animals. But it's not going to happen in my lifetime. You're a lot younger than I am. Maybe it'll happen in yours. I hope so. But, I think we need to do what we can now to make a difference. And I'm not, also I should say, I'm not convinced of the argument that if people learn that they can buy cage-free eggs, they'll continue to eat eggs, whereas if those cage-free eggs were not available, they would just stop eating eggs altogether. I mean, I haven't seen that happening. It seems to me the countries that have the stricter guidelines for how you can keep for how you can keep animals, like the European Union, California now with its laws, they're the ones that not only have better laws for animals, but also have more vegetarians and vegans.
Yeah, as a European, I support Peter in that. Yes, I mean, we see many laws introduced to support animals in some way. Of course, we do believe it's not enough, not even close, but it's better than it was.
Yeah, it's definitely better. I think a lot of people have worked hard to get those changes, and I think there's certainly less suffering of farmed animals in Europe than there is in other countries that don't have those laws. In most of the United States, for example, certainly in other countries that have no such laws, of which there are many, unfortunately.
I wanted to ask you about kindness. Is it something in your nature, or you've learned to be kind? Do you think that this is something that we can be better at?
I think all of us are a reflection of our environment, right? I think with time, I have learned to be kinder, and perhaps I think all of us innately have in us a kindness and do have in us innately an empathy, but perhaps somewhere, depending on our circumstances, depending on our environment, it sort of shapes how we are. I think certainly as I become more conscious and a more conscious self-reflector, I think I have become more kind. I went vegan quite long ago when I watched Earthlings, but then, that was sort of it for me. I'm like, oh, well, I'm a vegan, so, this is like great. But I mean, there's so many more factors to what makes you a kind person, right? It's not just being vegan. It's how you think. It's how you treat yourself. It's how you talk to other people. It's how you interact. It's how you think about so many things. And so I think it just goes, the more you are reflective and self-aware, I think that just results in you being a more conscientious and, as a result, a more kind person. So I think it's been a journey, and I'm still learning and reflecting. And I wouldn't say I'm a kind person. I'm just a person who's trying to be kind. I think that's
kinder and kinder, perhaps.
Yeah.
But I do want to ask you about how do you treat yourself?
How do you mean, how do I treat myself?
You said that, yes, that the kindness reflects also in the way you treat yourself. So I wanted to say how you take care of yourself. Yes, how you take care of your well-being.
Yeah, sure. Because I think sometimes we can forget to treat ourselves well. And especially when we are working in fields where, whether it might be animal advocacy or anything that's quite taxing, we can sort of forget about ourselves and then focus on, everything else. But I think it is crucial to spend time on our mental health and our personal well-being. So something my dad taught me from a very young age. My dad is a bit of a sadhu. He's quite spiritual, and he taught me the importance of being still and being present. And I think that's one of the key ways that I really take care of my mental health. Every day I go for a 2-hour walk, and on this walk there's no phone, there's no anything, and it's just me and my dog, just being present in the chaos of India. And we have moments where, like, Cookie will find like a leaf, and then I'm picking up the leaf and we're looking at the leaf, and it's like so amazing. Like, the leaf has got so many amazing like veins and designs, and you can just like really like be amazed. Like, I'm amazed at how cool it is. And I know that's a really silly little example, but it's just like being so immersed and grateful in like everyday actions. I think for me, that's a really big way that I really do take care of myself, other than going to the spa. But I think it's just more in those everyday moments, just being super appreciative and super grateful and super present, that just keeps my mind really grounded and just really clear.
2 hours a day is quite a lot to just take out away from
Well,
everything else.
Peter, you don't have a dog, so you don't know what
Right.
the requirements are.
Yeah, I don't. I suppose I'm most out of things when I'm walking in nature. Hiking is something that I like to do. I do with my wife often, and that's when I'm most relaxed and away from things. And but I certainly don't do 2 hours of that every day. That would be complicated to organize.
But you do other types of exercise, and that's all go to the same thing. Yes, so the movement of the body, the calmness of the mind,
Exactly.
some kind of meditation. Yes, we usually think that in order to meditate, you need to sit in this special position and
Not at all.
try not to think. But exactly, not at all. And these are different ways to do the same
You
thing
can
to
be
feel
like
better.
doing the dishes and, just really immersed in that activity. And I think that is a very meditative thing that you can do. You don't have to follow any prescribed, thing to meditate.
I agree about doing the dishes. I think I don't mind doing that as a break from things. Yes.
Yeah.
Exercise, I'm not so sure that it's that kind of state of calmness that you talked about, because in exercise, and I go to the gym twice a week, and I have some weights that I lift other things. But I guess I'm a fairly competitive person, and I'm competing with myself. I'm trying to say, can I lift more weight? Can I do more repetitions? Or, at least at my age, can I at least maintain what I'm doing? So it's not calm. It's an effort. And yes, it's a different kind of mental effort.
But you don't think about problems or philosophical issues while lifting weights,
No,
yes?
that's
I
completely
definitely
true.
don't. I
Exactly.
definitely,
It's impossible. You concentrate on something that you are doing at the very moment, and that's the idea.
Yeah.
I find the gym though not stressful, but like it's like I just want to be done with it. I'm not excited about the gym. It's just like it's just there, and I know I have to do it, but it's some people love it. Some people find it truly meditative and, you know, get really into it.
Some prefer swimming, for example, or
Yeah.
walking, as you said.
Yeah.
Right.
I've swum quite a lot at different times of my life, and I enjoy swimming in the ocean or in a lake. But for me now, swimming 40 laps in a pool, which is what I used to do, a kilometre, 40 laps of a 25-metre pool, is just boring. I don't meditate enough, you know. I just up and down. Yeah, I can do it, you know, it's okay if that's a good form of exercise. But it's not my preferred form of exercise.
Amy, I'm sorry, but as a huge fan of Indian cuisine, can I ask you about your favorite meal? About something that
Ooh.
you really take pleasure in eating?
Okay. Well, I guess I'm a little bit of a boring person because
That's fine.
I could eat the same thing every day. And
Okay.
I don't have this thing where it's like, oh, I have to have this meal and that meal. I'm very practical. I'm just like, okay, what's going to give me the required nutrients that I need? But I actually have a cafe. I own a cafe. I started a vegan cafe here in India. You know, so as a result of owning a cafe, I now do eat a lot more varied foods than I normally would have because I have to for taste testing. But normally at home, I will just literally have rice, dal, and salad. That's me most days. And I try and rotate the legumes and have it a little bit different, but I'm very boring. I'm just like the same old thing, just rehash it a little bit and I'm good to go.
Dal is perfect. Dal
Dal
is
is
perfect for me,
amazing.
and I know Dal because of Peter, actually.
Ah,
Yeah, he has a very good recipe, and he taught me to do Dal. Yeah.
Yeah,
amazing.
I put recipes in the first edition of Animal Liberation, and that was one of my favorite. That was, you know, because I discovered dal when my wife and I became vegetarian in 1970, 71. And we realized that we had to stop just cooking European meals because meat was the centerpiece of, well, not
Yes.
Mediterranean meals, but anyway, Northern European meals, which was both of us had ethnic backgrounds like that. And we had to look for other cuisines. And Indian is an obvious one because there are a lot of vegetarians, a lot of vegetarian dishes. And dal was such a simple dish to cook, and you can make it in large quantities and put it in the fridge or the freezer, and so it's not labor intensive either in the long run.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I really enjoyed dal and rice and some lime pickle and some papadums
Yeah.
is a terrific meal. But I'm wondering, do you make the same dal? Because there are many different dals now.
No, there's so many different dals that you can make. You can make, you know, black dal, yellow dal, orange dal. And then there's variations as well, like the types of, we have a thing in India called rajma. If you like dal, then you would love this. It's like made with red kidney beans. So it's like this red kidney bean curry thing. We also have this thing it's like similar to dal, but with whole black chickpeas in it. That's also one of my favorite things to eat. And actually, it's very interesting. Like Indian cuisine is mostly vegan/vegetarian. You know, many people don't realize like pretty much all South Indian food is vegan by default. Like when dosas, idlis, sambar, all this stuff that we eat in South India is vegan. And then so much of the food we eat in North India, like all of these curries, these dals, these thalis, everything, even the street food is vegan by default. And the only thing in North Indian food that you would have to make adjustments with is to replace the ghee with oil or replace the paneer with tofu. Like that's literally it. It's like not much of a shift from the usual diet. So yeah, so you know, it's interesting when people say that, oh, I could never eat vegan food. It's too hard. It's like, well, you already are. Most of you are. You just don't
Yeah.
realize.
That's what I've always thought about Indian food, I have to say. Terrific. You've been answering this question for our whole conversation, but nevertheless, we always ask this very question to our guest. Have you lived your life well? What do you think?
Yes, I think I have lived my life well, and I'm very grateful that whatever things have happened in my life have brought me to this point. I do think that there is a lot more that I would like to do, and I'm very grateful that I'm blessed with being here again every day with an opportunity to do just that. So yeah, just I think every day that I'm here, I'm grateful for that and just doing whatever I can. So I do think I've lived my life well, and I'm looking forward to living my life well on an ongoing basis.
For many, many years.
I'm sure you will for many years. That's right.
We'll see how we go.
Great. It's been wonderful talking to you, Amy. So thank you so much for
so much.
sharing with us your life and the wisdom you've absorbed and how you live, and of course the concerns for animals that we share.
That was a wonderful, very kind conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.